Hey, Nicki, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Good. This is the way I prefer to do a podcast when meeting somebody for the first time. We're face to face virtually because that's the way we are in 2023. And you and I are looking at each other for the first time and getting to know each other along with the listeners of the podcast. This is the way I like to do it.
Yeah, I love it. It's organic. Very cool.
That's right. So you are a New York hairdresser who focuses on teaching other hairdressers how to make more money by being more efficient with their time. Is that a pretty good summation of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that, yeah, that's what we do. I am a New Yorker. I am a hairstylist. I have my own little studio, and I saw a need to learn how to work faster and kind of get those appointment times to a more manageable level so that I can actually increase my income in a dramatic way.
Amazing. And of course, as much as many of the listeners are like, oh, I don't want to talk about money because it's so unseemly, or that makes me feel greedy or whatever, we all need it. And unless you're doing this for a hobby, which none of us are, you want to make more money behind the chair, while at the same time, of course, being passionate and enjoying yourself and all of those things, right? So why don't we start? That's what we're going to get into. Why don't we start with your story? Tell us your story. You're from New York. We've gotten there. We've gotten that far. But how did you get into this industry in the first place?
Oh my goodness. This is such an underwhelming story, but I'm happy you asked me. I got into this industry, so I started in 11th grade, so I was 16. And I just really genuinely wanted, when I found out that there were people who got to go to cosmetology school instead of regular high school half the day, I was like, yeah, I'm doing that because I'm playing with hair. I'm not doing math. And I mean, I still had to do math, but I was like, if I could get out of school half the day, that sounds amazing to me. I was a pretty troubled child, I will say. So I grew out of it.
Wait, I want to know more about that. Why were you troubled?
I was just a bad kid. Like, I was rebellious and impulsive. It turns out that I had undiagnosed ADHD, which probably played into that a lot, but I was just extremely rebellious. Like, everything my parents said to do, I did the exact opposite. So naturally, they said, you're not going to cosmetology school, and I said, watch me go meet with my guidance counselor. My guidance counselor gave me pushback, was like, no, your grades are too high to go to cosmetology school. And they weren't that high, mind you. I had
that's kind of fucked up, by the way.
We're talking.
That's kind of fucked up.
It's super fucked up.
That they would say that.
And that shouldn't happen in 2023. But 2003 was a different story.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I was like, well, I don't care. I want to go. And they're like, well, we reserve that for people who are like failing out because they don't really have other options. And I said, I really don't care. I'm going. And they made it happen because they have to pay for it, mind you, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I went. I wasn't particularly the top of my class. I'll say that. I ended up getting suspended a couple of times for
out of cosmetology school.
Oh yeah, bad kid. I'm telling you.
What? So wait a second. So your troubled nature followed you to cosmetology school.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what did you get suspended for?
I cursed out my teacher.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was a little.
Say
I'm not. Oh, I can curse a little bit?
I already said fuck.
Oh, I didn't notice. Okay,
I'm the host, and I said fuck.
Oh, okay, great. I was a little shit. Okay. Is all I was gonna say. I was a little shit. I cursed her out. I got suspended, but anyway, I graduated, so that was good. I would like to apologize if there's any small chance that she's listening to this right now for being who I was as a person back then. We've evolved quite a bit.
I wonder if she remembers, because we're going back. You said 2003, so maybe cosmetology school maybe slightly after that. So 2004 or 5, somewhere around there.
No, 2003 is when I started. So I guess 2002 was when I was doing talking to my guidance counselor. So, we're talking 20 years ago. 20 years ago?
20 years ago. But you know what? We already talked about not wanting to do math. So let's just steer clear of that.
Yeah, let's just forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you were troubled even in cosmetology school, but clearly you had a passion for that versus academic school. And I'm just so ashamed of the educational system that your guidance counselor, the one who's supposed to give you guidance, basically said that cosmetology school is only for people who got bad grades. I'm kind of stuck on that a little bit at the moment, but maybe this is not a surprise to anybody, but that just sucks.
Did you ever have an experience like that where somebody told you it wasn't a real career?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a cosmetology license, but I've been in this industry since 2000, and we've done almost 300 interviews on the podcast, 5 years worth. And so I've had a lot of conversations. We have thousands of beauty professionals in our salons, and I know many of them very well. And so this is, I guess, a little bit of the insecurity that underpins some of the confidence, or lack thereof, in our industry, unfortunately. And so that's why I say it's not a surprise, but it's totally a shame. And maybe that's why there is a little bit of that insecurity in terms of, being smart. I'm doing air quotes for the listeners, because the academic intelligence isn't the same as a lot of emotional intelligence and all these other things. There's so many very successful hairdressers who weren't very good at school. I know a lot of very successful business people who are dyslexic and weren't very good at school. And so, but traditionally, yes, right? Our culture has been that you're only smart if you get good grades in an academic educational setting.
Right. And I did, after I graduated, I actually did go to college.
Oh, okay.
And I nailed it. Like 3.95 GPA. I didn't graduate. I ended up dropping out because I was like, why am I doing this?
Right. Okay. So record scratch. Why did you do that?
I guess it's a little bit of a long story, but I'm going to make it short in my true nature. I got married when I was 18 to a guy in the Marines.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was like with him through high school, and he went off to the Marines, and I got married to him, and I moved to North Carolina. And I was like, you know what? While I'm here, I might as well just go to college. There was like a community college there. I'm like, I might as well just do that. Okay. So I did. And I did great, but there wasn't really a huge point to me going to school if I was going to pursue my career doing hair.
Right.
I guess I just did it to learn stuff and pass time,
Yeah, because you felt like that was something that you should do. Okay, so you're in North Carolina. So you're going to college. You realized halfway through or so that that was not what you should be doing. So then did you matriculate into the hair industry? Did you go to a salon?
Yeah, so then when I moved, so I was in North Carolina a couple years, and during that time I took a break from doing hair because I didn't transfer my license over or anything like that. So I worked as a server, and then I went to the community college. And then when I moved back to New York, I still continued to go to a different college for a while, but simultaneously worked at a hair salon as an apprentice, like the hair salon, which was an experience.
Hold on. An apprentice. What brought you back to New York?
Oh, I dumped his ass.
I was waiting for that. 18 is very early to get married.
Yeah. I mean, that, and not an amazing human being that we're talking about here. So
sure.
But that's beside the point. So I moved home back to New York. And you'll see this is a common theme that has happened in my life, kind of like bouncing to different places and then coming back to New York. Okay. Yeah.
You went back to New York and you started apprenticing. Are we talking New York City or somewhere else?
No, I'm on Long Island, and I got an apprenticeship position at like the salon on Long Island, right? Like it's a huge salon. Everybody wants to work there. It's the place to be. Like this at the time, like this is how you become like a top-notch hairstylist.
Okay. And the name of the salon?
It was called Maximus. It's not open anymore.
Okay. Maximus Salon. And really quick, as an aside, for all the listeners who maybe don't know, when you say Long Island, you're supposed to really hit the G. Am I correct?
Long Island. Yeah.
Long Island.
Like lawn, like the lawn that you mow.
Oh, long.
No, it's actually long, like Long, but we pronounce it Long Island. Yeah.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so proceed. Maximus, you went there and you just walked in and this was the spot, but you had the confidence to just walk in and be like, I'm Nicki Bianco, where's my place?
Hell no. I had a friend. I did not have confidence. Came much later in my life. I had a friend that worked there, and so she kind of got me in the door. A little bit of nepotism there. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And what was that experience like?
It wasn't a positive experience for me, really. I actually didn't. So you had to choose. We were departmentalized, which was fine, but I chose styling, like cutting hair, and I trained for years there. I did shampoos, a lot of blowouts, and I held a lot of clips and a lot of brushes on people's head, and I wouldn't say that everybody there was the kindest to the apprentices, but I worked really hard, and I guess it was overall, I guess it wasn't a bad experience, so I stayed there a few years, and then I moved to Colorado.
Okay. And what took you to Colorado?
I literally have no idea. See, this goes back to like me being an impulsive child that I had to grow out of it. I hadn't even ever been there before.
Okay.
I was just like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. I'm out.
Sure. That makes
sense. And my parents, obviously, at this point, they're like, oh, what is she doing now?
Yeah. But you're young. You've got to get out there. You got to see things. And so you went to Colorado. Okay. And
for 7 years. 7 years.
That's a chunk of time. And
it was a chunk of time.
Did you work in a salon there?
Mm-hmm. I worked in a couple of different salons, actually Aveda.
Okay.
So I did an apprenticeship again with Aveda, but you were actually able to take clients during your apprenticeship. And then I felt this like internal pressure I got a marketing job instead of doing hair. I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I felt really discouraged because I was making like $150 a week at this point.
As an apprentice. But clients.
Well, I was taking clients, yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't have a clientele, so you didn't have, most of your time was being spent apprenticing, right?
Well, no. So you do your apprenticeship for 9 months, and then I graduated the apprenticeship, right? And I moved, and then I was able to just take clients kind of full time, but just with like the prices and the commission structure. And I was actually like decently busy, but it just did not. And the product charges and everything, I was really left with like almost nothing. I think my paychecks every other week were like $300. So Gotcha. That wasn't enough to live off of. And, of course, I started to question, is this really what I want to be doing with my life?
Right.
Okay. And I got a marketing job.
So you got a full-time marketing job? Or
full-time.
Were you working on the weekends at the salon?
No, I was just doing it like a little bit on the side at that point. I was done. Like I thought I wasn't going to do hair anymore.
Right. Wow. So it was a commission salon, you say, and the commission structure sounds punitive. It sounds like it was hard to make a living there. Were there any hairstylists at the salon that were making a living? Just curious.
A living, yes, I would say. But the people that were like the top level stylists that, they were kind of pumping out clients all day. I think the max anybody made there was like $70,000.
Yeah. Okay. So you got a marketing job, and what was that like?
It was a different experience. It was cool. I'm really into marketing, so it worked out pretty well. It worked out pretty well for me, but so I did it for 2 years, and then as is my nature, I was like, no more. I'm going to go back to doing hair. I missed it. So yeah. I did. I went back to doing hair.
Okay.
And then I went to another another commission salon.
You know what's kind of funny about this story so far is it reminds me of, our grandparents who they dropped out of high school, and not that you dropped, but they left home and they, like a vagabond, kind of went around the country and they did a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And like my dad, my dad's from New York. My dad's family's from New York, Poughkeepsie area, and then the city. And so, but he went off and he went to Utah, laid bricks for like a year and a half. And then he went down to Texas and he, slung some product for a period of time. And then, and like, that's how people used to do it. And I think that that's like the greatest education of all. Nowadays, if we don't know exactly what we're going to do at 21 for the rest of our lives, we feel like a failure.
And how are we supposed to know that when our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed?
Exactly. Okay, so you're trying out all these things, and most recently in this story, you've gotten a marketing job. You did it for 2 years. You probably learned a tremendous amount, which supported a lot of your growth. A lot of which, is the reason why you're here on the podcast and why you're helping other hairdressers these days. But you didn't want to do the marketing job anymore, so you left and you went to another salon.
Yes. And that was a much better experience. It was also an Aveda salon. It was also a commission salon, but I ended up doing well for myself there. I ended up doing pretty well. I mean, as well as at that time, I think I maybe like finished out making like $60,000 a year, but for me that was a lot at that point. So, and I have no fear of talking about money. So it's something that, I do talk about a lot but at this point, like I didn't have any, like I really didn't.
Yeah. Paycheck to paycheck. And
paycheck to paycheck. Yep.
You were doing a little bit better in this salon, in this Aveda salon. It's another commission salon, I'm assuming. Most of the Aveda salons are. And okay, so how long did you spend there?
2 years.
And then what?
And then my dad got sick. Yeah. So my dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease when he was like in his late 50s. And so this was back in, I'm trying to think when I moved back home. So he was diagnosed officially 2017, but he started showing symptoms in like 2015. But so I went to Colorado. I mean, I was in Colorado, and then I was like, you know what? I really would like to go home and like be with my dad while he still kind of knows what's going on and help care for him, because he didn't really have anybody to care for him. So I ended up moving home, and by the time I got back here, there was like, when I tell you there was nothing in my bank account, like nothing. I just moved into my Nona's spare room.
Nona's grandmother.
And this is a very typical, very typical Italian household. Like my 60-year-old uncle on the top floor, we got Nona in the middle, and we got my mom on the bottom floor. And then I'm like, you know what? Here I come.
That's awesome.
So I moved in there, and and then I ended up jumping into my own suite. Like I was just like, I don't really have anything, but I'm just at this point, I really don't have that much to lose. So I'm just gonna do it.
You had experience, you had knowledge, you knew how to do hair well at that point. You had marketing experience and knowledge, and so it sounds like a pretty good time to put it all together. But certainly, I imagine it was uncomfortable, but going from commission salons to, you kind of skipped the booth rental stage, right? And you went straight to your own studio.
Yeah. So I was with a friend. Like we got a big one and we kind of split it.
Smart.
Yeah. And I think that was when I like felt in control of my career, and that's when I absolutely started to just like flourish.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you had been gone for 7 years. So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, you had no clients.
Not even one.
But smart that you were splitting the cost of your studio with a friend.
Yeah.
cut your expenses in half, but you had the freedom and flexibility. And what about your friend? Did she have clients?
Yeah, a little bit more so than me.
Okay. All right. So you're in your studio and you hit the ground. Talk about what that felt like.
So it was definitely scary, but at this point, I have nothing to lose. Like, I'm already broke. I'm in my Nona's house. I'm like, I might as well, if this is my opportunity now to take this risk, right? So I just did it. It was scary, but based on my previous stories, you understand that I'm a pretty impulsive person, which makes me a great entrepreneur, but kind of could be a nightmare. Maybe partner or child to have. Yeah.
Also
but anyways,
fun.
Also very fun. Yeah.
And adventurous.
And so I just kind of went in. I had a lot of confidence in myself that I'm going to be able to make this happen, even though I don't have the clientele. And I did, I have the marketing skills too. So I filled up my books fast, like really fast.
Okay, well, so give us the nitty gritty. What are the first things that you did day one?
I mean, day one, I got all my product and everything.
You got your product. Were you Nicki Wildflower already, or did you become Nicki Wildflower?
Yeah, so this is 2017, and what we named our little studio was Wildflower Hair Den. So that's where Nicki Wildflower came from. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess we named it that because we both kind of just felt like Wildflower described who we are as people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I just, on social media, I was like, I'm just going to be Nicki Wildflower. And then that's how that happened.
So you branded yourself and the first things you did were you got the products, you had tools, and you're ready to go. And then how did you get clients?
Okay, so I was like, I gotta pump out the marketing. So what I did was I went all over Facebook and I did a bunch of model calls. I said I was not afraid to ask people to come sit in my chair or let them know that I was doing this and taking this risk, and I was super excited about it. So I basically said, come sit in my chair. At this point I said, I'll give you 30% off. I need to make content, right? So I'm like, I didn't have any because at the commission salon, I wasn't really taking videos or pictures or anything like that. So I was like, I just need to get these ideal projects into my chair, make a little bit of profit. Of course, I can't be losing money, but at the same time, a lot of them ended up becoming actual full paying clients. I was making some profit, and I was able to take all of that content and put it out there and build not only a clientele but a whole, and I did a referral program. So here, send your friend, they'll get 30% off too. And that's what worked. That's how I filled up my chair so quickly. Then they would tell then they liked what I did. So they would come back, they would tell their friends. I just really put myself out there. I made sure that my hashtags were looking good.
Yeah. So you said Facebook. But 2017 Instagram was full throttle. Full throttle in our industry. Did you have Nicki Wildflower Instagram then?
I did both. Yeah. No, I was on Instagram and I put a ton into that. I think at that point I was posting 3 posts a day. And I stayed consistent. I stayed really consistent in my posting. I wasn't so concerned about necessarily the quality of what I was posting. I was like, I just need to be in the habit of posting.
Mm-hmm. And were you sponsoring posts? Were you paying for the posts on Facebook to try to get these models?
Well, I think I did a few. I did a few times, but also just people on my personal, not just that, but also on my personal Facebook. I let people know that this is what I'm doing. I would love your support. I really want to create beautiful hair for you, and a lot of people came through for me, and then they loved what I created and would tell their friends, and that's how I got full so quickly.
So
6 months I was booked out.
Okay, so you went back to where you went to high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had friends, you had a network there that goes back. So your Facebook and your Instagram, you had you had a group of people you knew who knew you, and so you got a little percentage of those, and then they came and they're like, oh shit, Nicki actually knows what she's doing, and then they told their friends, and then so quickly that resulted in you being booked after 6 months. Okay, so now you're saying 30% off. Now you just started working on your own out of a studio, and 30% off of what? Like, how did you even price yourself, right? Like, did you say the average for this XYZ service is 100, and so I'm willing to do it for 70, but I'm going to call it a discount because at a certain point I want to be able to remove the discount so I can get the 100? Like, tell us how that went.
Yeah, so they knew that it was only for new clients. At that time, like, I didn't really understand how to come up with my prices, so I kind of just transferred over my prices from my salon in Colorado, which was also, like, that was a higher end salon. So, I mean, they weren't what they are now, but sorry, I'm sitting on my legs in such a weird way. They're falling asleep. It's very uncomfortable. Oh, okay.
So you can't feel your feet now?
No, not at all. But, anyways, yeah, so I was like, I just transferred over my prices from there basically and went off of that.
Okay.
And I don't even remember what they were at that time, but I would say on each of those, like the bigger color services, I was probably doing around like $150 per ticket, but they were taking me a long time. They were taking me like 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours. So it was enough to pay for I was working a lot, like 5, 6 days a week, 12-hour days. I was burnt.
Wow, I bet. Okay, and was your studio big enough to accommodate you and your friend at the same time?
Yeah, but no double booking.
Sure. Okay. All right. And so you ran that kind of routine, which is a pretty standard routine. I mean, we have a lot of listeners right now driving to their salons in their cars thinking, that's me. My feet kill at the end of the day, and I'm doing 6 days a week, and when my clients call me for an after hours appointment, I say yes, because, I'm trying to make hay while the sun is shining. And that's changed a little bit post-COVID, but I'm sure a lot of hairstylists are still doing it. All right. So how long did you do that routine?
Oh, and realized that I had absolutely zero boundaries and was going to lose it. I let that probably happen for about 5 months, and then I was like, okay, nope, I'm in pain. I'm physically in pain. We have to set a schedule. We have to learn how to maximize our time. I'm like, there has to be easier ways than what I'm doing right now. There is no way that all of these, I feel like I can still get these results, but that I could find and take shortcuts to get there, like that aren't actually going to jeopardize what happens in the end. So that's what I obsessed about.
But part of you was also probably pretty excited that you took this risk and that you made it happen, and you were probably making the best money of your career at that point.
Ever.
I'm guessing.
Ever. I was flying high. I was like, I am rich. I moved into my little basement apartment. And I was like, I did it. I made it. I mean, and now looking back, I'm like, you didn't really make it. You were living in a basement apartment. But for me, it felt amazing. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all relative, right? You're doing better than you had done ever before. So, and you felt great. But at the same time, you recognized that you weren't maybe doing it as well as you could. So, so lead us down the path to kind of where you are now as a coach. And you've got this business called Slice Squad. And so bridge us from there to now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to try to make this as concise as I possibly can. But then I just started experimenting. Like when I say I'm obsessed with doing hair, and then I hyper focus on things. So when I obsess over something, I'm going to know everything there possibly is to know about it. And so this became like my absolute fixation. So even when I wasn't working on clients, I'm like with mannequins and on family members, I'm like, but what if I slice here? And what if I do this, this, and this? And then once I really like got the hang of it, I was like, oh my God, these results look beautiful. And people were like actually blown away by them. Once I really like solidified that, then I started using it on my actual clients and they were blown away. And I was able to get those like 4 or 5 hour appointments down to like, at that point, 3, like the big ones, I got down to 3 and like 2.5. At this point, I'm so fast. It's like my max appointment is 2.5 hours.
So you're talking about,
and I mean,
developing, you're talking about refining your own techniques, color techniques.
Yeah.
In order to be more efficient.
Yeah, but I'm not the first person to take a slice instead of a weave. I'm not the first person to do a root smudge or to do a zigzag or anything like that. I really was like, okay, how can I saturate this in a way that's going to still make it lift? How could I take larger sections? How can I take wider sections? What products can I use that are going to help me in this goal of being efficient? And then at that point, once I got down to those numbers, I was able to take like 3 of those higher ticket clients and I raised my prices. 3 of those higher ticket, because the demand was there. And when the demand is there, you're able to raise your prices. And then the demand became higher because I'm known as like the fastest colorist on this side of the Mississippi. And nobody wants, and I'm in New York, so especially nobody wants to sit here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're like, get me out.
Another record scratch. So we're in a period of time where pricing is very important. It's a topic that everybody's talking about. There's inflation like we haven't seen in 40 years. And so as an industry, we're talking about it a lot because we want everybody in the industry to do well. Part of the conversation is, the general, charge your worth, all that, but also a lot of people are talking about hourly pricing. So what you're talking about now is the opposite of that. Explain.
Yeah, and hourly pricing definitely is going to work for some people in whatever their business structure is. But for me, I feel like I feel like trading my hours and putting like a financial number on my hours is going to cap my income, especially it's not an accurate measure of the value that I'm bringing to people. If I'm able to get a job done in half the time, that's actually more valuable. So there's not really a reason why I need to be making less than somebody who does the same job in 5 hours. I should be able to charge the same. So,
and that makes sense.
Yeah, so I go value-based. Yeah.
It makes sense when you say it like that, but I think a lot of listeners are probably thinking, oh, geez, but how am I going to justify to my client that I only spent this short amount of time, but I'm charging her more?
Yeah, so I think that's in like the confidence that you exude and the way that you communicate, because I always marketed this as like, this is a luxury to get your time back. And when they start, because think about every other industry, when you're getting the express version of it, you're paying more. Overnight shipping, direct flight. If there was a train that could get me from here to Florida in 5 hours versus, 24 hours, I'm taking the 5-hour train and I'm paying double the price for it. So
totally. Toll road. So many examples.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all in the way that you market it and put it out there to people, and it's on you to kind of shift that mindset and be like, hey, I specialize in getting you results in half the time, so you can have your day back. Mm-hmm. You don't have to sit in my chair all day. And once clients realize that that's actually a luxury, and you're able to communicate that effectively, then their mindset also shifts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know the quote about Picasso, right? Who scribbled on a napkin, and I don't know the exact quote, but
I don't know if I do know that quote. But since you brought up the quote, I'm gonna look it up. Picasso.
Well, I don't know if it's so much a quote or it's a story, but apparently, and I'm gonna completely get this wrong, I bet. But Picasso's in a restaurant. Some lady says, "Ooh, I'm a big fan. Can you draw something on this napkin for me?" he scribbles something, it takes 60 seconds, and he charges her $10,000 or something. And she says, but it only took you 60 seconds. And he said something along the lines of, no, it took me 40 years.
I love it. Okay, so I found it. And
how wrong did I get it?
I think you actually nailed it. It always reminds me of this, or the one asked him to scribble something on a napkin, and she said she would be happy to pay whatever he felt it was worth. Picasso complied and then said, that will be $10,000. But you did it in 30 seconds, the astonished woman replied. No, Picasso said, it's taken me 40 years to do that. So you nailed it. And I'm sorry to put the listeners through the story twice. But yeah, amazing. And such a great example, and so important to keep in mind, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like you kind of have to just reframe and start looking at efficiency as more of a luxury and not less of.
We don't get paid for our time. This is something we often hear. We get paid for our time. We get paid for our time. Maybe a component is time, but I think a lot of it is the experience and the knowledge and the hard work.
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of, like, I've always been big in, like, the mindset business realm, like, always had the feeling that I was capable of so much, but couldn't quite figure out what that was going to be. And I would always listen to people saying, like, these big business minds being like, hey, if you really want to excel in life, you have to find ways to streamline things. You cannot sit there trading your every hour for a dollar amount.
Okay. So so Slice Squad is how you do this and how you educate hairdressers. Explain to us what it is. Is this like a virtual thing you sign up for? Do you subscribe? Does somebody call you?
It's evolved over time. So I would say that when I just started sharing stuff on Instagram, probably in like actually teaching. I didn't want to be an instructor or an educator in the slightest bit. I was like, I just want to do hair. But then when I did start sharing what I was doing, I knew I'd get pushback. I didn't really care. I was like, that's fine. I knew that because I'm like confident. I know it works. So, and I just started sharing, and then people were like, well, I want more. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be an educator. That's not what I want to do. I just want to do hair. And so anyway, I started sharing on Instagram. Then I was like, okay, let me come up with like some kind of like a digital thing where people could get access to these videos so that they can learn like the full technique. So I came up with that. Then over time that evolved, and I started doing more of like a coaching program, which now evolved into actually more of a consulting thing where we work with people one-on-one, so we can actually like dig into their business. And so we don't really do like classes anymore necessarily. We work one-on-one with people, so we can actually, and I have a whole team that works behind me, and we bring in hairstylists. We analyze their business, see where they're at right now, and then help them come up with ways to make it more efficient, including like their consultation process, including their menu, including their services, and then how they can actually tangibly increase their income dramatically.
Very interesting. So you've got other people helping because there's no way that you have enough time to do hair. I'm assuming you still do hair.
Yeah. At this point, like, because things kind of popped off in a way that I never really anticipated, I mostly just do hair for my live classes or even just the classes that I'm teaching. And that just kind of transpired within the past couple of months. It just kept dropping. Okay, 1 day behind, 3 days behind the chair, 2 days behind the chair, 1 day behind the chair. And I'm like, well, I'm slammed. Yes, I have a team, and they're all people that have gone through my programs before and like actually excelled. Everybody on my team had either went through a program with me and either doubled or tripled their income. So there's really no better to like be a reflection of what we teach than those people.
Very, very interesting. So it's a combination of technique. So getting similar results, a similar outcome on a color service in less time, right? As well as business coaching and making your entire business, the business element of somebody's operation more efficient, right?
Yeah, more efficient and more profitable.
So you had a comment on one of your Instagram posts that I really liked. It said, Actually, you were talking about a comment that somebody had dropped onto one of your Instagram posts and the comment from one of your maybe followers was something like, do you only do hair for the money? As if, I mean, kind of accusing you of only being focused on the money. And then she said, assuming he or she said, if we love what we do, the money will come, automatically, right? And it's a very romantic notion that can maybe be emotionally comfortable for people who maybe are insecure when they talk about money. But what was your response to that?
I mean, that's not true, that if you love what you do, the money comes.
It doesn't, does it?
It's not. No, it doesn't.
You have to put more work into it than that.
This is not, and that's how you end up emotionally discounting people, because, oh, I love what I do and I'm just happy to do it for you. You can love what you do and still demand, just like I compare it to an actor. I'm sure that most of them love what they do, but look what they're demanding to be in a movie. Look what they're demanding. That doesn't mean that they love their craft, but they understand the value that they're bringing, right? So like, you can't tell me that I'm greedy for wanting my family and myself to have financial freedom and still love what I do. There's no shame in wanting to be successful financially.
There's no shame in that, and there's no shame in expecting to, if you put in the work and you have your mindset right, expecting that this can be a career that supports you and your family for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But you can't just bring passion to it. And I think a lot of people that's what they like about that notion, is that it seems easy for them just to focus on the passion and completely ignore any of the things that they might be uncomfortable about in terms of the business elements.
Yeah. Cancellation policies. I see it all the time. Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to upset my clients. I don't want to take deposits. I don't want to upset my clients. Oh, I'm going to, she's been a friend for a long time. I'm going to give her a discount. At what cost? The cost of yourself and your family and your life and the experiences you want to live, because money does not buy happiness, but it certainly does buy freedom. So
it can buy satisfaction. People, something that I've seen a lot out there, and it's interesting to me because I've always kind of had this in the back of my mind, is how a lot of the people who are kind of in this mindset category of consultants and mentors and stuff are starting to use the word satisfaction instead of happiness, because happiness is kind of a fleeting emotion. Like we can't be happy all the time, right? So a lot of them are using the word satisfied. Are you satisfied with your life? Because that's more of a fundamental state of being versus a kind of a fleeting emotion. And really, we should go for that. We should go for a certain level of satisfaction in what we're doing. And you can't do that if you're killing yourself in the salon behind the chair and then killing yourself when you go home because you don't have enough money to pay your bills or to buy a decent dinner. You're talking to a lot of hairdressers, and it sounds like as you're kind of getting a snowball effect with your business and you're getting more and more and more customers, you're getting more and more hairdressers, clients who you're helping in their businesses. What would you say is the number one pushback you're getting from them? In other words, you deliver something to them and they're like, whoa, I can't do that. You want me to do what?
Yeah, like when it comes to actual like consulting clients that come in, I would say their biggest pushback would be, having boundaries, stopping emotionally discounting. Like at this point, when they come to me, they understand that they can slice their timing down. That's my biggest pushback from the general public, like people who are uninformed about what we actually do and how it actually works, being like, okay, so you're just lazy, which is the furthest thing from who I am as a person. Lazy is not up there. Nor but when people come into my program, I think they have the hardest time with actually like raising their prices when they need to raise their prices. And oh man, getting people to track their numbers is like the hardest thing.
Oh, sure.
Getting hairstylists to like buckle down. And I mean, I have all these sheets that auto calculate their expenses and everything for them, but getting them to actually like fill them out is difficult.
There's so much software, there's apps, there's things. A lot of our payments are digital now. I mean, what's like your top of mind thing for somebody who maybe is still working with a pen and paper, that some way that they can automate that element?
Yeah, well, a lot of people still actually do. And when they come to me, they're still using a pen and paper. I'm like, you have to embrace technology. Like, you have to. So I just recommend that everybody, even if you don't want to give people the control to book their own appointments, you should still have a digital way to book people in so that you're having your confirmations sent out. You can collect their credit card information, you can collect deposits, and you can have them do like a virtual consultation and sign a digital form that makes sure that they're acknowledging your cancellation policy. So that's what you have to do to protect your bottom line. You could also like track your expenses that way. So this is not a hobby, it's a business, and getting people to see it as such and actually focus on that business aspect is kind of difficult.
So I take it you're a fan of online booking?
I mean, yeah, to an extent. I mean, I do it more in like a hybrid way where I send them a virtual consultation and then I kind of evaluate the consultation and say, okay, so for me, it looks like this is going to be the service you book for. So I'm still kind of maintaining that control. And here's my link now. I'm not just putting it out there.
One of the biggest questions we get is, which booking app should I use? Do you have one or two or three that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I use Gloss Genius personally. I feel like it kind of does everything that I need it to do. I hear other people use Vagaro and have good results with that. And I would say those would be the two main ones that most people are using.
Okay. Okay. Here's always.
How about you? What do you recommend?
Well, I mean, I try not to recommend anything because I think it's so subjective. It seems like what most people tend to do is they, according to whatever type of business they're running, let's say on one side you have a barber who's got kind of his culture and his brand and stuff like that. So he might go with Squire because Squire has that feel and that look and that makes him feel more comfortable. And a lot of ladies like Gloss Genius because it has the functionality. They've done a pretty good job of keeping up with anything that people might want. Good flexibility on being able to toggle on and off different functions. And it has kind of a more feminine aesthetic to it. I know some guy hairstylists who don't want to use Gloss Genius because gloss they feel is a more feminine word. So it may not be good for them and their brand, the feeling thereof, right? And then, but a lot of people use Square, and they use Square because they started taking the payment processing with Square because it's just kind of like the default one, even though it's like the most expensive.
It is.
And then Square started offering booking, so they've kind of backdoored a lot of customers for their booking. It was initially free. Now they charge for it as of April of last year, I believe. Some people have complained about the booking. It seems like people are complaining less about the booking now. I think Square's a huge company, multi-billion-dollar company. I think they figured out some of the glitches that they had early on. But then there's a long tail of like 200 other booking apps. And people have some that they like, and then I hear complaints about others, and it's very interesting. Some people are just bad at technology and they blame the app. And so you never really know. It's hard for me to really quantify and qualify a lot of the feedback that I get. So you asked me a difficult question to answer, and I gave you the very long, sort of explanation. But whenever we post something, or I on my personal post something about booking apps, I get lots of responses. People wanting the silver bullet. They want the answer. Schedulicity is the best, period, the end. I just don't think that there is such a thing.
Yeah, I don't ever really speak in absolutes like that. I'm like, this is what works well for me. Based on my research, here's some other options. And then also things are going to be different if you have a larger establishment, like with multiple people booking. So I can only say this is what works really well for me. Here's some research that I've done. Maybe look more into this.
Right. It takes a little bit of time. Usually what I recommend is that people put in the time. They get a trial account at one, and then a trial account at another. They try it out. They test it out with a friend who can book an appointment, and you actually do it. But that's legwork. That's effort. People want it to shortcut, to the end. Without putting in the effort. I just suggest you put in the effort because it's your business, it's important, and it's worth it.
It is so important.
Yeah. Tell me something in your career that you did that you wish you didn't do.
Something in my career that I did that I wish I didn't do. I wish that Well, no, because technically I couldn't have really gone out sooner on my own. I don't think that would have actually served me. I just wish that I'd never emotionally discounted people. I wish that I always saw like my potential and the value that I bring, and didn't think that I had to switch careers so that I could be perceived as a professional, or I wish that my mind was always in the right place and not so easily swayed by outside influences.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
I wish that I saw
a lot of
I wish
people,
I knew what I was capable of back then.
Exactly. So often the answer is, I wish I had more confidence back then. I wish I'd given myself more credit for my ability to make something happen. I wish I had taken that chance a little earlier, because I could have made it happen earlier. I eventually made it happen, but if I had just had that confidence back then. I have 2 little kids, and I try to imbue that confidence in them, because I see, that kind of natural insecurity sometimes, and I wish that they could have that confidence. And so anyway, really good answer. What is this is a favorite question of mine too. What was the hardest conversation that you've ever had behind the chair with a client?
Oh man. So I burnt somebody's hair off once, and that was a pretty difficult conversation to have. Yeah. Strand test. Should have done that. But, I basically had to tell them I didn't burn it off. It had it had a chemical reaction, and, smoky foils. And I was like, I destroyed your hair, and there's almost nothing I could do about it at this point. It just literally snapped off, except for the next year. You can come in every week, and I'm going to give you a treatment, and I'm going to make sure it's healthy. And obviously, this is on the books, but that's still not going to make up for what I just did to you. That was the hardest conversation. And
was this a scenario where maybe a better consultation would have sussed out the condition of the hair in such a way that maybe you would have done it differently? Or maybe the client just wasn't honest? Or what do you think?
I think they just had well water or something that they were working with that caused that reaction. And I should have done a strand test, really, beforehand. And now, as I am more seasoned in my career, when I'm putting foils in, I actively check them every couple minutes to make sure nothing's overheating or anything's going wrong, So I guess I was just more inexperienced, and I totally destroyed somebody's hair, and that was probably the hardest conversation I ever had.
I bet. So towards the end of every episode, we have what's called the hair. I'm sorry, we have the hair camp. We have a hair horror story, and so I basically ask the guest for anything, any horror story. It could be yours. It could be another stylist in the salon that you witnessed somewhere along the way. It could be something that happened on stage at a hair show, something like that. So you just gave us one unprompted. Do you have any other hair horror stories that people can learn from?
Oh, yeah. Here's a good one. So I was doing a show a couple of years ago in Alabama, and we had gotten a hair model, and as we're getting her ready, all of a sudden we see creepy crawlies in the hair.
No.
She had a like massive lice infestation.
Oh,
and these are like huge lice.
My God. Hold on.
And we're about to get
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is a hair game podcast first. Hold on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay, so for the listeners, I now have the ability, I'm going to drop it right here. I now have the ability to add in little sound bites. What do you call these? Sound bites, right?
Sound effects, I guess.
Sound effects. Yeah, sound effects. Okay, and so of all the hair horror stories, no one has ever mentioned lice. So holy shit, tell us.
Yeah. So we're getting her like prepped to get on stage. We like get the cape on her and everything. And this is somebody who, she was our waitress like 2 nights prior. And we were like, oh, do you want to be one of our models, right? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So we're getting her all prepped and ready to go. And all of a sudden, one of the other people I was working with was like, Nicki. And like was very subtle about it. She's like, come here. And I'm like, and she just like shows me and I'm like, okay. So I have to talk to the model. I'm like, you actually have head lice? And she's like, I do. And I was like, dude, and they were like fully matured lice. Like, it was, I've never seen anything like it. And it was not my first encounter with head lice. So, and I feel bad for the person. Like, I don't think they'll be listening to this. So I don't have to feel, but of course I wanted her to like have her dignity. So I'm like, how do I communicate this in a way that's really not going to embarrass her? Right. So I was like, listen, like you have head lice. It's okay. We're not going to be able to do your hair today, but you do need to get this treated. And she's like, oh, my head has been really itchy, but I thought because my dog had fleas, I just figured like, yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
I mean, so quickly, we're about to get on stage. We've got about 15 minutes. We have no model now. We have to like completely undress, run upstairs, shower, put all of our clothes like in bags, throw out everything, quickly run and find a model. And it ended up working out, but like we were just so mind blown by what just transpired. And I felt really bad for the person as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's wow. Just so many thoughts. Because
that's got to be embarrassing, right?
Got to be embarrassing, yeah. And yeah, you don't want to ridicule or any of that. So where did you find a model? You just reached out into like one of the walkways?
Out on the floor.
Just grab somebody.
Yeah. You know, like those big hair shows, there's people walking around. Just grabbed somebody and they were like, okay.
Wow, and it worked out. You got somebody with the hair you wanted and it worked out.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great story. Yeah, I'm going to give you another applause there.
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much. For a first time, 5 years, nobody has ever had a hair horror story with lice.
Now my hair is itching.
I know. No, yeah. I've been itching. You've been noticing on our video here, I've been itching. Okay.
Yeah. I never seen anything like it before. Yeah.
I bet. If you could wave a wand and change anything about the industry right now, what would it be?
People just really need to be nicer. They need to be more kind and understand like there are so many different ways to get results and so many different business models out there and so many different educators. And it does not do any good for this entire industry to be making negative comments, to be undermining other people in the industry. Like there's a place for all of us here. And just because you don't understand something or don't do it a certain way doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So I think we just need to learn to be more supportive of each other and know that just because there's like other people out there that you consider to be competitors, there's no real competitors in this industry. There are so many people on the planet, and so many different people are going to resonate with different people. There's room for all of us and all of our different viewpoints, right?
Plenty of clients for everyone. Something
and plenty of students for every educator.
Oh, totally true. Totally true. It's just shocking how many clients there are out there who have not found a hairstylist yet, or, you know, they'd like to have a different look, but they don't know where to go. And, you know, but they're looking, they're out there looking, and there's so many, there's enough for everybody. Absolutely. So those are inspiring words. We're going to leave it with that. And Nicki, it's been amazing. Where would you like for people to look for you?
My Instagram would be good. Nicki Wildflower. It's Nicki.
And from there,
Wildflower.
they can go everywhere else. Your website, which is a great website.
Yeah, there's a link in my bio, so you can just go do whatever you need to do.
I love your Instagram.
Search around. I've got some free resources.
I love your Instagram, by the way. Your Instagram is not a sales pitch for your services, your education. It's education. It's educational and entertaining. And I found myself deep into the rabbit hole, the proverbial rabbit hole on your Instagram. So, and I enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
enlightening us all. We really appreciate it.
And I love what you do. So thank you so much for, reaching out and having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicki. Talk to you soon.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.